Hello and welcome to Sky Career Talks, here where we get to discuss why communicating and connecting with Rutgers alumni is so important. Today we'll be learning about Shayna Sadow. She graduated in 2021 with a BS in sports management, but during her time she spent in college as a marketing intern with Rutgers Athletics, and now she works full-time as a marketing coordinator for Rutgers Athletics. Here we get to learn more about Shayna's beginnings to her career and where she is today.
Hi, my name is Lane Klimek, and I'm joined by Shayna Sadow to learn more about Rutgers alumni and how they start their career after college. How are you today, Shayna?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. So, can you start by just giving us a brief overview of your career journey?
Yep. I graduated from Rutgers in May of 2021. Throughout my time at Rutgers, I did a couple of internships, but the one that definitely I valued the most was my internship with Rutgers Athletics. I interned with the marketing department for 2 years. From when I was a junior all the way through COVID, I worked games through COVID. I had the opportunity to work different sports before COVID, and it kind of taught me a little bit about what sports marketing was for someone who had never played a sport in their life. So I had zero sports experience, zero sports background. But I took one class in the sport management program and fell in love with the idea of working in like entertainment and sports. So the internship definitely guided me to know where I wanted to be. After graduation, I worked with the New York Red Bulls for a little bit in event marketing. So I worked all their game days, helped out with ticket operations, helped out with event operations for everything that happened prior to the game with the Boulevard. So that was my first real like out of college experience. It was kind of when everything was coming back after COVID too. So we were just kind of easing our way back into everything and having fans come out to events again. So that was my first real kind of professional sports experience. And then luckily enough, my boss, PJ Mullen, came here from Penn State. And he was looking for someone to help him with the football season. So naturally, I reached out to him right away, knowing I was interested in coming back to Rutgers and that it was my career path to be at Rutgers. And I just felt so strongly about that he ended up hiring me. I worked part-time with the football department for a couple of months as just a game day kind of experience role. I helped out with all the pregame events that we had, all the in-game presentations on the field that we did for football, and that was my main role. And then in March of 2022, I believe, I got hired full-time as a marketing coordinator with Rutgers Athletics. So this means I got all my own sports that I got to work directly with their coaching staffs and organize all their marketing efforts and game day production side efforts. So my sports I get to work directly with are field hockey, men's lacrosse, track and field, cross country, and tennis. So those are the sports programs that I work directly with. And then obviously football being my main route is like something that I still play a huge role in. I help with the creation of the Rutgers Boardwalk, which just came about last year. It's on its second season right now. So I'm in charge of a lot of the different elements that happen prior to everyone seeing the boardwalk and then the day of production of the boardwalk. So those are kind of career journey wise what I've done and where I'm at.
That's great, Shayna. You definitely hit a lot of places that people would be interested in. So, you talked about, you work for different sports teams and different, you got to coordinate with coaches and players and things like that. So, what type of technical or interpersonal skills do you think students need to start with their career?
Definitely. I think for me, two of the biggest ones are a go-getter attitude and then having the willingness to learn. You need to be ready to just kind of seize the moment. You never know what's going to happen at a sporting event. So that's kind of where that go-getter attitude comes in. Like with my field hockey team, they are 10-0 right now, which is just really a great record, and they're such a great program to work with. Their game last week went into double overtime and shootouts, so that's where that like you got to think on the fly, you got to be ready to go, and you got to keep the moments excited for the fans that are there, but also for the team as well because they need to keep the energy going and keep that momentum going to get the win, which ultimately they did. Um, but also interns need to be willing to learn. I think sometimes, obviously, in every internship, there's the hard tasks of having to pick up boxes or roll t-shirts, which is a lot of what we do in marketing, but it helps create that fan experience that makes the game days better for everyone that comes to them. So ultimately, like in office hours is what we call them with our marketing internship here. Students are rolling t-shirts, but sometimes they have the ability to help us with the scripts, and the scripts are what people hear the PA announcer say on game days. So they help write that, and they get to know that the work they're putting in is being shown on a larger scale at the games. Um, and that's kind of where, if you start with doing those tasks that are picking up boxes and rolling t-shirts, which may seem like the small tasks, it kind of shows that you're got that go-getter attitude, you got the willingness to learn. And that's where, in my opinion, like when I get my trust with an intern, I start giving them more stuff to do. So that includes like writing scripts for me, helping out, and then hopping on meetings with teams eventually, creating theme days, picking out giveaways, all that different type of fun stuff that kind of gets them the inside look on what a job in sports actually looks like.
That's really cool and sounds like a great experience, for interns to start with, almost with the simple activities, but then working their way up to more work-like activities. So obviously you work in like the marketing department and, it's not just you that you're communicating with other teams, other departments and things like that. So how important would you say networking is for, the industry you work in and just developing one's career in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think networking is extremely important. I think in sports, it's not who you know, but it's who knows you. You want to make yourself known for what you're doing, what you're completing with your sports. Um, so for myself, when I was a senior at Rutgers, what I did during COVID was I just reached out to a ton of sports professionals on LinkedIn and just had informational interviews like this with them and asked them questions about what they do, what they thought was the most important. And it kind of showed me the different sides of sports. I talked with people that worked in corporate sponsorships. I talked with people who worked in sales. I talked with people that worked for the Devils, that worked for NASCAR, like two totally different sides of the sports industry altogether. And it kind of helped me decide that like I really did like the creative side of everything, which led me back to marketing and my roots and what I knew. Um, but I think networking is extremely, extremely important. I'm the biggest advocate for it. I'm more than able and willing to talk to anyone about my job for hours and just answer questions about what I do. It's honestly one of my favorite things to do because that's what I did when I was a student. But definitely, I think it's important. Get as many internships as you have, like if you want. Like for me, like when I work with the hiring for our internships, so like I tell interns stick with one internship. I know it seems important to have a lot of internships and to build your resume out, but showing that you stuck with one for 2 or 3 years is extremely important as well too, because you get to grow your rapport with like your fellow classmates and the full-time staff here at Rutgers. And I think that's extremely important because in the end, it'll help us get to know the students better and then help them get their future full-time jobs. And maybe they'll be able to work back here at Rutgers. Um, our full-time staff now at Rutgers Athletics Marketing consists of myself and 3 other people who were interns here in this department. So I think it shows how important it is to stick with something and to just make yourself known and make sure people know who you are within a program.
That's great advice to give. Sticking with an internship is great relationships and networking, like you said. So I know school wasn't that long ago for you, but looking back, at your college time and either your internships, work experience, do you have any tips or recommendations that you would advise to students who are, struggling, just starting out their career, or just looking to get an internship somewhere? What advice would you give?
Yeah, I mean, I would say don't be afraid to ask for help. I think asking for help is one of the hardest things, but it's one of the most important things at the same time. Ask your professors. They're well connected with people in sports. They're well connected with people who work at Rutgers Athletics. There's easily 5 plus internships within the athletics department at your own university that a lot of people don't realize about. So just keep that line of communication open with your professors. If you're struggling to find an internship, always just ask for help. It's important. Um, and I would say my like biggest like piece of advice is try everything to find out what you want. I didn't get that opportunity because I graduated in COVID. But I always say there's so many different sides of sports, whether it's like financial side, it's facilities side, it's communication side, it's marketing side. Every department does something different. and you should really get the opportunity to, whether it's talk with an individual who works in one of those departments or do an internship or work an event underneath those individuals. I think it's extremely important to try everything. I don't think people realize how many sides there are to work in sports, and that there's always a way in. It's just important to, again, be open, talk to people, network. I keep going back to networking because it's just so important within the sports industry. Like, really just talking to people about what they do proved to me that I wanted to be on the creative side of everything and work in marketing.
That's great advice to give, and stressing networking is super important nowadays. So it's great that, you experience that and can express that to others as well. So lastly, it's just kind of a fun way to end on it. Could you describe your job in 3 words?
Yeah, so I would say it's really rewarding because at the end of the day, you're putting on events for people, and when you get that positive feedback, whether it's from a fellow coworker or a fan that you see posting it on Twitter, I would say that's the most rewarding part about it. Another thing is you have to be passionate. You need to be highly involved in what you're doing. You need to stick to it. You need to be just willing to hone in on it and continue to do it and stick to your gut. I think that's extremely important as well. Um, and then you need to be committed as well. I think it's hard when you see your teams winning, losing, all that different type of stuff. You just need to keep your eye on the prize, that you're there for the student athletes, you're there to create an experience for the fans, and I think that's the most important part of it all.
Thank you so much, Shayna. Thanks for joining me today. This advice will definitely be helpful for students starting their career.
Of course.